In this episode, we will add Google Firebase, add Google Firebase's Cloud Firestore into our Next.js online business application. You're watching DevTips and I'm David. The first thing that popped into my head when I was thinking database was Google Firebase. And Firebase is this framework service thing that Google is providing. It costs money, but they have a small plan that is free. And it's pretty convenient. I did a small pair programming with MPJ on fun function where we tried to hack it. I didn't get keys and stuff working then, but I figured it out now. So let's get to it. So here's our online business. We're gonna take, instead of this placeholder data that we are fetching asynchronously and it's server-side rendering and everything, we're gonna fetch that from Firestore instead. Yes, Firebase. So create an account, use your Google account and go to the console and sign in. I did that here. And then we're adding a project. 3 projects from the project limit. Uh-oh. So let's just make the online business project. Let's just call it something online business video. And I will just change things here because it's fun. I don't know if this matters anything. I'm just wondering about if this is for time zones and stuff. So I want to keep it close. And then Europe West sounds good. Cloud functions, yes, accept. Creating the project. So now we're gonna see the part that I didn't find out in that other video on fun function. I don't think Google are the best at building interfaces all the time. So when we're here, I had a hard time finding where were my the keys and the basic things I needed to get everything set up. So I was looking here in the settings, project settings, I didn't find it. Well, it was here in the project overview, and here as a part of the design, you had to click this one. These are the keys that we need, and they are secret. You should keep them secret, and you should have perhaps one set of keys, like one project for your development and one project for your live production. You don't want to check these into Git and GitHub. You want to keep them as environment variables. But first, while we're here, let's just create the database. We go here to database, Cloud Firestore, create database. We start in test mode, so you can just read and write, no authentication, anything. It's just to make things simple. Enable. So we have a database now, and we have nothing here, but we can create a collection, and let's just call the collection agencies. And now we have the path to the collection, and then you can put whatever key value pair here. So let's just put a name for the first document here, DevTips, and to just have some other property ranking. Make it a number. We're number 1, of course, save. So now we have the Firestore here, and we have a collection of agencies, which has one agency that is called DevTips. Let's get those keys and get them into our project. We found them here, project overview, clicking this obnoxious button that doesn't look like a button or anything. Thank you, Google, for that. Click here, and here we have all the configs. First things first. We are going to create a file to keep all the keys. Then we're going to create some code to load the keys automatically. Then we're going to make a database connection that we can use. And then we're going to connect the database connection to the get initial props. So this placeholder data, we're going to have real actual data from our database. So we want to have this agency's data get into here, which can then be rendered out here, which will then be server-side rendered here. But first, the environment variables. I'm just going to create a file here in the Online Business, new file, .env. And this I want to ignore. I don't want it to be checked into Git. So add it here. There we have it. And now we're going to just populate that with these keys that are called some things. So now we have a .env file that is not checked into Git, and we've added all the keys there. Here we have a components directory and we have a pages directory. And components and pages are like React stuff and Next.js stuff. Pages are Next.js and components are React and Next.js. So let's just make a new library that's called lib for library, where we keep other handy things. Let's just create a database.js. And here we can paste the actual code and use that as a foundation for what we want to do. So now we've modified it, so we use the environment variables, but we can't reach them now yet. So we should add a small handy feature to load them. And I found this blog post that explained how to do this very, very simply by using the .env package. So we'll install that. And it was pusher, I think. Pusher.env Next.js. They had some code here. So I'm just going to steal this. I will link this. It was very, very easy. So they just made a Nextjs, next.config.js, and they just put this code there. And I will do the same. I'm just following what they did, and it worked. And yeah, they know what they're talking about. So let's just do that. New file, next.config.js. Just paste that stuff here. So it's requiring Webpack. And Webpack is part of React, so we have it already, and then .env that we just installed here. And it just takes the keys and set them to process.env. So that's great. And of course here I forgot that we should have process.env. That's how you fetch those variables. What we have here in the database.js is that Firebase suggests that we should add this, which is basically the Firebase package. So we'll do that, but in React way, sort of. So we'll import Firebase from Firebase, but we'll only get the main Firebase part by adding /app. And then we'll import Firebase Firestore. So we're only using Firebase to access Firestore. And by writing from Firebase /app, we're only getting the core functionality of Firebase. And then we're adding the Firestore part here. Because right now we don't need the authentication and we don't need real-time stuff. We just want the Firestore, so let's just put that here. Now, we want to just make a small function which will config and initialize Firebase. So let's remove the script tag. And let's just make that a const. And export default a function called loaddb. like that. So by adding the export default, some other file can request this file and it can request this function. And let's return Firebase because it's Firebase that we want to use later on. Like that. Save. Does this work? Why isn't it highlighting? Oh, okay. Export function. There you go. Export function. We're exporting a function. Like I said, function. Okay, so now we have the basics. We have this config, Next.js, which pulls the environment variables in. And we have the db.js, which basically loads the database. So this is basically just the whole copy paste, but we have modified it to use the environment variables and we're returning it. And now we're going to use it somewhere. So what better place than index.js? This is, we want to use it. So here, let's import that function. And we have to put it like this, load db from, we're somewhere up in the tree. Let's go down to lib, and it was called db.js. Will this work? Fetch is not defined. Okay, for some reason, okay, we don't have to do this. Let's just return empty for now. And we're not gonna use that anyway. Like that. Let's just see if it runs. It's running, have nothing, that's good. So let's see what happens. Let the db be equal to load db. But this is making a request to set everything up, so we will have to await that. It's asynchronous. So let's just see what happens. Everything is fine. db is fine. Now, when we have the db, we would like to access stuff. So db is actually Firebase. So we have db. How do we get stuff out? This is it, db collection. And db is Firestore, right? Okay, let's just change it to the way they write. So they call it admin and then Firebase. Firestore, okay. Okay, let's do it like this. Let's call this load Firebase. Because we're returning Firebase here. Let's just call it load Firebase. So we're calling this Firebase instead. We have Firebase and then we have Firebase.Firestore according to the documentation here. Firebase, Firestore, that's the DB. So let DB be that. Okay, now we're according to the documentation, which will make things simpler, I guess, when we start getting errors, which we will. So now we can get a collection and we call the collection, remember, agencies. This is the collection here, agencies, this one. And we're gonna get it, and then on the snapshot, we will do things. So we're sort of getting a promise here, if we're getting it. .get. And then we will get a promise with a snapshot, which I guess is the state of the query once we get it. I think we can just add, I'm pretty sure we can add a limit here. So we just add limit 10 so we don't get too many. Right now we just have one, but just feels stupid. We're going to get a snapshot. And then we're going to do something if we fail. But we want to return things here. We use the async await here to like make JavaScript that is asynchronous look synchronous. So here we have the same thing, that we want to get a result. Like we want to have let result be something. And we're calling the DB collection agencies, which limits and gets, and then get a snapshot. And we're going to do something with the snapshot. And then if we have an error, we're going to catch that and do something. But the problem is, because all this is asynchronous, result will just be a promise. So if we're returning result here, it will just return a promise. It's not returning the actual data because the data hasn't gotten there yet. So what we need is to wrap this. We need to await this. But it is not until here within the snapshot that we can actually deal with the data. You see, they do it, they get the snapshot and then they for each it and then they get the data out of it. And if they get an error, they get something else. So what we want to do is we want to fill this result with data. So we're going to wrap this in a new promise that we await, I think. So let's await a new promise. And the promise has a resolve function and a reject function. And within that, all this stuff is going on. Like this. Because now we can here resolve the snapshot. And if we get an error, we can reject and just pass something else. Let's just pass an empty array. If something happens, it will just return an empty array, which will be awaited and put in the result. And then the result will synchronously walk further, get down here, and then return the result. But the snapshot is probably some kind of data thingy that is for Firebase. We don't want the actual snapshot. We want to get the data from the snapshot and put it in the resolve, which will then be passed on to the result. So let data be an empty array. And in the snapshot, for each document, we'll just add that to the array. So snapshot for each document, data dot push the document. And to ensure that we have the right data, we just want to use the data that we know that we want. So if we look here in a document, it has a name and a ranking. And they are data in the doc. But they also have an ID. And if you remember from the last video, we wanted an ID because we populated the key and we put that as an ID. So we want to push a new object that looks like this. It will have an ID, yabba dabba dabba, and then it has a name, yabba dabba dabba, and then it has a ranking, yabba dabba dabba, which is basically what we have here. But it fetches this ID and merges that with this. So how do you merge an object? You use object assign. So from here, we realize that on the document, you have an ID field, and then you have all the data in there, in the data function. So we need to merge the doc ID with the doc data. So push an object assign, we have a new object which has an ID field, which is a doc.id. This object. And object assign assigns something to this object. And we want to assign the fields from doc data. Oops. So we start with an empty array. We process the snapshot for each doc in the snapshot. We push to the data array. And once we have all the data, once it's for each everything, we resolve that data, which will, if we have data and didn't have any errors, we'll put it in the result. If we have errors, it will reject and pass an empty array into the result. And then here we will return the result and everything will hopefully be fine. So what did I miss? Why are all these things expected? Okay, so what did I do incorrectly? Here we are. Now everything's working. Save this. Have nothing. What is incorrect? Where? Firestore, this behavior may app break times. Oh, okay. Firestore settings need to be. Oh, okay. We didn't put any settings there, so we could just settings. We don't have any settings. Timestamps and snapshots true, and then db.settings, add that settings. Will that be fine? Compiled successfully. Firebase app name default already exists. App duplicate. Give me Firebase app name default. Oh, okay. I think it's running this multiple times and then it has already initialized it. So I don't know if this is poor, bad design. Let's just do it like this. Try this, all this, like that. Catch, error. If errors message matches something, so we try that. So if we have something that says already exists, exists test. So if this happens, everything is fine. So we should only ensure that if it's not this, then we should actually print out some good error like Firebase didn't initialize correctly. Message. Perhaps we should just put it here, because now it runs first. But it doesn't set it until here. I don't know in which order these things happen. Let's just remove that. Firebase.firestore. Let's just put that here. Will that work? Wait. Should I return that here instead? Okay, that sorted something out. Do we even get anything here? So let's log the snapshot. Get something? Yes, we get the snapshot. So things are working. Then we get data. Do we get docs? Do we get data? We get data. We resolve the data. It should be passed to result. Do we get a result? We get results. Why isn't it working? Return the results. Okay, I know what the problem is. We don't have agencies because we're just returning the result. We should return an object with agencies and results. Is that it? Is that it? Yes. But now we have the name field. Has a ranking of em agency.ranking. Yes, it's working. So now add a document. Name. Traversy Media. Ranking, number, and he gets number 2. Save. Boom! And now let's just add something else. Add a name, fun function, ranking, 0! Yes, we got it working. Woohoo! So now this is dynamic and is fetching from the database Cloud Firestore. And we have hidden the keys. They are in the .env file. In this file that this next.config.js is reading. So let's clean this up. Remove that console log print. Everything was working here. This get is just getting the snapshot. So this is not dynamic, but I know that they have an on snapshot feature. So we could add that later on in the set states, and then it will just listen to the snapshots. So if there's a new document coming in, it will just populate it and update things. But we won't do that now. I just know that you can, but we don't have, we will just add these agencies like sometimes, not all the time. So we have everything working here. You've been watching DevTips with me, David. We have finally added Firebase and Cloud Firestore to our Next.js app, and it's rendering. So if we do a curl here, curl localhost, you see that we have, where is it? Traversy Media. We have all the stuffs here. It's there. So this is SEO'd. Googlebot will find it. It's fetching from Firebase, and we're all happy. That was it. Give a thumbs up hit subscribe, share the video, write comments and suggest what we will do next in this still unnamed online business. We still have the domains. I have just not gotten to it. And check out our React prototyping course if you want to have some more basics about React. Thank you for watching. This was DevTips. I'm David. See you in the next video.